By Seed doing something called This Love, taking us to exactly 20 after 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock at yours, and with Drew here, taking you through till 4 o'clock. As usual, Institute for Justice and Reconciliation annually or yearly or if not quarterly, they always come up with a book, which is quite thick, very interesting, quite informative about the politics, Drew, and so I drove you in so that you should know how things have happened. I'm sure you've heard about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. I think it came about through that. Ayand?
Institute was formed just after Inansika, TRC process.
Okay, after
to continue umsebenzi with TRC after yaphetela process, then we established in 2000 years.
Okay, on 2004. Welcome, by the way, madam. Welcome on the program. It's a great pleasure. And Drew, you can also apparently just give us a brief synopsis about your booklet. You'll be launching a book again tomorrow, and it's one of quite a few series you've produced. And put together, and what can we expect today, tomorrow, and what's really happening?
All right, okay. Ngomso sizabe silome esabe sidiscussa ngomso presented by Dr. Iraj Abedin. It's intergenerational justice. With senior intergenerational justice, the focus here is to look at resource allocations as government. But how does he manage? Resources. In the management of resources, about generations as and not just to allocate resources. Justice. With senior intergenerational justice, the focus here is to look at resource allocations as government. But how does he manage? Resources. In the management of resources, about generations as and not just about allocate resources too much about consumption generation today. So that is the focus of the briefing. So is to say budget here. And everything relating to investments and resource allocations is mazinga because short-sighted, mazinga jongin nje namhlanje ukuthi okay.
And then this end up how would I say it will something which will be coming back again in a way that
exactly.
Someone who's a youth today, we never got resources like this and that and that. And the talk which will be done by Dr. Abedin.
Abedin, yes.
Yes. He'll be talking about intergenerational resources, huh?
Intergenerational equity.
Equity, yes.
Yes, or in other terms, intergenerational justice.
What are we talking about here?
Okay, so as I've already explained, intergenerational equity or justice is to say, okay, now the resources that we have as a country, right? It's really a principle, of governance. Any government should approach society is to say nazi resources esinazo. Sinezi resources that are natural resources, esizinikwe. And then sinezinye resources that we have developed ourselves, right? Sine culture, sine knowledge, and all of those other resources. Now is to say, Uguti, how do we then see a consciousness in terms of how we approach the resources? What is the resources thing as consume it just for Tina Namshanj, but the outlook here, it joined it to the future as well. So now if it's a Jonga Aka a South Africa name, what's been happening since a transition, it took a 1994, and we look at a budget allocation. Also, we look at a governance in general. And we have to then look at all of those things critically and ask Ukuba, indlela ugovernment aphatha ngayo izinto i-resources zethu inayo nale consciousness, you know, your next generation ezizukulwana ezisazayo uyabo. And so one of the things that we then need to start to define ukuthi leliphi ilifa, for example, you ask yourself ukuthi leliphi ilifa that generations inherit. What is that legacy that generations inherit from society? Now generations, they inherit resources. Those resources sometimes they are monetary resources. Sometimes also resources about inheritayo the intangible. So they inherit both the tangibles and the intangibles. It might be values that they inherit. It's also infrastructure that they do inherit from generations that have gone before them. Now we look at the budget, you know, that's the framework of inside, and when we look at the budget and we look at the governance, and what we see, for example, just looking at a budget over the years, now remembering that in South Africa, we are at this stalemate at the moment in terms of the economy. Economy is really not growing at a pace, you know, that's required to create jobs, right? And we know the last time we spoke about youth unemployment, which is just out of proportion in South Africa. So we look at the budget and we see over the years, an item, a kulayo, budget, which the government is really investing a lot of money in. One of those items is social grants, right? And we look at what is the impact of the social grants. Yes, abantu bayasokola, we need the social grants, but at the same time, as much as we invest across the social grants, as we invest kakhulu infrastructure that will enable the economy equally, and so that the economy can create jobs, right? So we need to then begin to look at the budget here and do reform your budget here. We need to start to make investments that will develop the economy, that will develop human capital, because one of the things that we're concerned about, particularly around human capital, is to say we have a society as South Africa when we have the history where net deficit in terms of skills, net deficit, say human capital, abantu didn't go to school, abanazo skills into the economy. Now if you look at the budget here too, it does invest for education in line with the trends zamanyamazo and so forth. It's a substantial investment esiyenzayo kwi-education. But then as much as siyenza le investment leyo kwi-education, iyona nto esikhathazayo xa sijongayo loo nto leyo ukuthi, as you know, with any investment oyenzayo, investment must translate into some kind of returns for economy. Now, how do you measure value your education? Now you've put in this money into education. So how are you going to measure that value? Education, if value yayo, has to be the extent to which it boosts the economy. It provides skills for the economy. And what we do see in South Africa with the issue of quality education here to go up to standard, we find investment esiyenzayo I boost the economy because abana nabaphuma esikolweni abaphumi benazo skills that are needed to economy, because we are in this economy which is global, which is also competitive. So we need highly skilled labor force. We need abantu abazaya ku-engineering. We need abantu abazaya ku-technology and start to compete in the global market. And Tina, as you also, I'm sure, uyayazi loo nto leyo ukuthi immatriculants zethu, equality ematriculants zethu sizikophayo is not up on par with needs the economy, particularly if we look at the subjects, the mathematics, we look at the subjects, the science, we're just not getting the numbers right. So those are the things we start to look at. Now, from an intergenerational justice point of view, that's a concern for us. Urhulumente has to,
invest
in terms of governance, alungise the education system and make sure curriculum reforms are done with the education sector here too, that there are avenues for skills development so that we can start to see a return to education.
Ayanda, we're just going to go get a short break, then we'll be coming back to you shortly, madam. Just hang in there, okay? All right.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still talking there to Ayanda Nyoka. She's with the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation, and tomorrow they'll be having a talk. There'll be talk just preceding the State of the Nation what's happening? It's State of the Nation coming up next week. So, but first, let's just give what to expect. What's really happening in Africa?
African news.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still talking there to Ayanda Nyoka. She's with the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation, and tomorrow they'll be having a talk. There'll be talk just preceding the State of the Nation what's happening? It's State of the Nation coming up next week. So, but first, let's just give what to expect. What's really happening in Africa?
African news.
It's 2:30. It's 2:30. African news making headlines. UN aides concerned about Uganda's anti-gay bill forms. The 28 members bloc's High Representative for Foreign Affairs, Catherine Ashton, is also expected to officially confirm whether it will ease a travel and asset ban on Zimbabwe's military elite. President Robert Mugabe and his wife remained under the ban. In 2002, the EU stopped direct aid to Zimbabwe. And finally, a senior United Nations official, John King, says Al-Qaeda-linked militant group Al-Shabaab continues to control a sizable area in southern and south-central Somalia, despite gains by African forces over the last few years. The UN's Director of Operation in the Office of the Coordinator for Humanitarian Affairs has recently returned from a 3-day visit to the country, highlighting a nation that remains impoverished, with some 2 million Somalis, both inside the country and in neighboring countries, remain food insecure. Jen says a lack of funding for humanitarian needs is becoming a global concern. We have come to the end of the African Bulletin. The full English Bulletin will follow at 3. From the African News Team, I'm Lusanda Bull.
African news.
Check out Everyday People Monday to Friday between 4 and 7 p.m. right here on Bush Radio 89.5 FM for the fattest and fittest in deep house sounds. R&B, hip hop, white dog. And of course, you know we are one big family. Everyday people. Everyday people. Weekdays between 4 and 7 p.m. on Bush Radio 89.5 FM.
Welcome back. The time just gone 14:33. With Drew here in the studio, and of course on the line we've got to Ayanda Nyoka. She's with the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation, and tomorrow they'll be having a seminar. Should I call it a seminar or is it a talk, ma'am?
It's a briefing.
Yes, yeah.
Or a talk, yes.
Talk done by Dr. Abedian. Tell us more, who's Dr. Abedian, by the way?
Aliva?
Oh, Dr. Abedian, those are a talk for people who are the first-time listeners here, who we want to come and be part of this event. Shortly, let's tell it super Jingai.
Okay. Dr. Abedian, we're economists. And the CEO, we are Pan African Advisory Services, the company I guess as a Joburg, but you can say we economists, a very influential economist as well. And in 2003, he was awarded, I believe, the award year top economist of the year.
Wow.
But then I have to say, Ugut is fully booked for tomorrow because, as I said, he's quite a public figure. So people were very excited to come out and hear Ugut what he has to say. So we're not taking any more, unfortunately, abantu ukuthi baze kwi-event ngomso because the RSVP says value.
Okay. Yeah, ma'am, earlier on, before we phoned you, we were talking, me and Drew here, he's a student here in the Bushrader from University of Connecticut, studying also political science. And I was just briefing him earlier on that, economists, he was bragging to me that, wow, how he spends a lot of money.
I wasn't bragging so much, I was just talking about it enthusiastically.
If he has like 200 pounds, or no, we were talking about how much is a 1 rand as compared to a pound.
Yeah. Or the dollar, so it takes, right now, I think it's 10 rand, 88 cents to equal $1. And last week it was 11.20. So, yeah, it's improving slightly, but
yeah,
it's still pretty bad. I mean, for me, it's great. Like as an American, student visiting, it's great for my wallet, but it's.
Then you can spend all you want.
Well, yeah, and it hardly makes a dent. So that's, especially when it comes to food. So that's kind of nice. But I'd imagine that has to be exceedingly taxing for South Africa.
Yes, for me, I was going to that point. For us, why was it not rather too early for us to go to global world in a way? Or was it rather a wise move to go globally in a way? Because now economy is there, competition is competition, and capitalism is capitalism. Yeah. It is one cool, it is no difference in a way.
But we can't be an island, that's the thing, you know? This is how, the global economy is arranged. This is the arrangement. And there is international trade and so forth. This is the order of the day.
How people who will be at this event are going to ask Dr. Abedian just to talk about this more, especially we are known as third world countries. And so how are we being treated by the first world countries anyway? Because apparently they act like bully boys.
Well, we come here, we eat, so it's delicious. I'm spending as much money as I can, trust me. It's just not going anywhere.
Well, we're happy you have money to spend.
As am I.
For most South Africans, it's quite a tight, our pockets are quite tight, and the food prices have gone up as well, just drastically. So people are really struggling to make ends meet and put things together, and lots of people are in debt. And so we really need some, to turn the situation around and create jobs, most importantly.
So, I mean, how do you, and I hear a lot of this, and there's talk of this too in America, though on a lesser scale, and it feels like it's a lot more urgent here in South Africa for job creation. And I know it's a very broad question, but how do you create jobs? Like, what are the strategies you go about to create jobs?
I mean, how you create jobs? Well, first, there's quite a number of things. One of that is that you have to create an environment that is conducive to jobs.
Yeah.
For job creation. And one of those things is investing in infrastructure, which is what we were talking about earlier with Basi. If you look at our budget, for example, our national budget, we are spending disproportionately on social grants. Compared to what we could be spending and investing on the infrastructure that business would require to facilitate that kind of environment for business.
Right.
So there's still a lot of rail infrastructure, transport infrastructure to facilitate business that we're really not on top of.
That makes sense.
So the investment in infrastructure is also quite critical, but also in terms of job creation, one of the challenges that we do have is a skills deficit in the country. So you have a labor market that has, shifted towards a more skills-intensive labor force. So you need people that are more educated, that have more skills. And in South Africa, this is the issue, that our labor force is less educated. A lot of people that are coming out of the schools, the school system, they don't have the required skills by the economy. So you also have this, it's also a global phenomenon, really. It's this mismatch of skills between what the industry requires and what we're able to supply. So it's structural in that sense. That we have that mismatch, and that's something that needs to be fixed in the long term, but also quite urgently, looking at what we can do to develop those skills that people do require, and what avenues you can create for people who don't have that much education. What other pathways they can take to get into the labor market, and this is particularly relevant for young people. We have a lot of, a high rate of young people that are not in education, they're not in training, they're not in employment. So basically, they are just at home and not being utilizing their time in ways that are productive. But also in ways that benefit the economy. And so strategies are required to think about how do you reintegrate that group of people into training. And here your vocational training sector becomes quite critical to look at skills development, to look at whether these young people can be taken into apprenticeship and to become artisans and so forth, to learn how to paint, to learn all of these other, skills that can sustain them and give them some kind of livelihood. And those are the things that we're not getting right. So when you think about our labor force, one needs to think about a variety of interventions that addresses a variety of needs.
And I think you should be one of the people who'll be doing a talk tomorrow, man.
Absolutely. I'd show up.
Sorry?
I think you should be one of the people who'll be doing the talk tomorrow at the event. Unfortunately, it's already booked. Oh, should I come and crash?
You should definitely come. The press is still welcome. I'm not sure why you guys are not coming, but...
No, this is very interesting. We should come in and bring our recorders and record this and play it on air.
You should definitely come. I think the topic of intergenerational equity or intergenerational justice is so critical at this point for us in South Africa. And so it would be great for you to come, definitely, and get your listeners to really engage with these issues.
Tomorrow, where, what, when, and what time?
It's happening at 9:30 till 11 at our offices. We've moved offices. We're no longer in Wynberg, now in Gardens. The address there is 105 Hatfield Street in Gardens, Cape Town. So that's where you'll find us.
105, we're writing here, 105?
Hatfield Street, Gardens.
Hatfield Street.
Just for ease of reference, it's just opposite Gardens Commercial.
Okay, all right, I see that.
So that's where we're at. But as I said, the event is no longer is closed to the general public, but definitely the media is still quite open to come in and attend this event.
All right, Madam, I'll be one of those who'll be asking a lot of questions.